Want to know where in life you are respectable, dedicated, and where you face the consequences of your actions? Well, I am here to tell you as we explore your Capricorn house. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Hannah and welcome back, Cosmic Warriors. Before we do dive into today's video, if you want to learn more about astrology, then head on over to the Cosmic Check-In podcast. And if you would like to book a reading with me, then go to hannahselsewhere.com. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's do this. Okay, so before we move on to Capricorn through the houses, let me just take a moment to tell you a thing or two about what your Capricorn house says about you. Your Capricorn house shows the area of life where you mature and you grow up. You'll gradually become more sensible, pragmatic, wise, and you consider the consequences of your actions, provided you learn from your mistakes, of course. The Capricorn house is certainly an area of life where we build. We build ever so cautiously and slowly. And along the way, we do experience a few setbacks and delays. We learn from the benefits of setbacks, of healthy limitations. We certainly show great discipline and dedication. Plus, in this house, you show respect and/or earn respect. Ever heard the term respect is earned, not given? Yeah. We cannot force people to respect us in the Capricorn house. But this is where it's about us showing up in respectable ways. However, the Capricorn house is also an area of life where we can be a little bit stiff, a little bit rigid, quite narrow-minded in our view. We can also present as being somewhat controlling or cold at times. Just taking on too many obligations and responsibilities is also likely. And this is where we can become worn out. So we want to be mindful. Can also, of course, show where, like I said, where we are very disciplined. It's where we put our best foot forward. We put in a lot of effort and hard work when we can. We want to really make something of ourselves, establish ourselves to be our own authority within our Capricorn house. Our achievements, our status as well, but most importantly, our purpose are tied to this house. Okay, so with the Capricorn house being explained, let's move on to Capricorn through the houses. First up, then we have Capricorn in the first house. So this is most likely then that you have a Capricorn rising, all right? So you can often be perceived by others as somewhat cynical or as pessimistic, as someone who sees the glass as half empty. But of course, you can also be seen by others as being more pragmatic, practical, speaking common sense, structured. You can also be very constructive and very disciplined as a person, as an individual. Others also may like or dislike your realistic views on life, and they may also like or dislike your high standards, right? These parts of your personality. Moreover, it can appear as if you have this I can endure hardship and pain, this type of demeanor. However, I'm also going to say this. There are times when you can show your playful side. That is very much likely. Maybe even underneath, you are a big kid at heart. It's more that you don't really present in this way whenever you first show up. It's not the first thing that people see. Also, you're usually the one who prefers to be in control within situations, even though sharing how you feel doesn't necessarily come easy. It's almost as if you jump into this authority role or as someone who can handle situations really, really well. Maybe there's a plan that needs to be put in place. Maybe there's a solution that is very much needed. You will step into that role. And lastly, you can also present an image of this is a very, very serious matter. Or what is the purpose? Like, what's the use? What's the purpose of this thing? You move like you are worthy of respect. You command respect wherever you go. Moving on to Capricorn in the second house. So with Capricorn in the second house, when we think about your self-esteem, you value how ambitious and how self-sufficient, how self-sustaining you can be. You like being valued for your discipline, for your hard work, your dedication. And whenever you lack self-worth, you can be somewhat callous. You can come across as quite cold, hard to reach, hard-hearted, pessimistic possibly. But whenever you feel like, you know what, yeah, I know my worth, you stay true to your purpose. And you also stay true to your commitments. You can be someone who presents as just, you showcase integrity basically, right? And also, whenever you know your worth, you are going to listen to your inner authority. You're going to trust that strongly. You're not going to doubt it as much. However, whenever there are times when you struggle with self-worth, that could be when the self-doubt starts to creep in a little bit. But then when others try to devalue you, you'll set firm boundaries with them. Oh no, you're not for putting up with disrespect. You'll also come across as quite unfeeling towards other people who try to put you down. And achieving your long-term goals and being successful, well, these are things that certainly help boost your self-esteem. Moving on to Capricorn in the third house. All right, so if we were to think about your early schooling years, of course, there's so much more I could say, but we're really trying to just give some quick information today. When we think about your early schooling years, perhaps you were a structured and disciplined learner or student, even though you were limited or you struggled, right? You could have struggled in some way. There could have been some kind of learning blockage or something that you find difficult, especially difficult. You still put the effort in and you tried to put your best foot forward. Also, you may have been willing to respect teachers or to discuss your plans and your ambitions. Maybe you worked very hard on your studies. You strived to really meet certain standards. You could have also been quite serious with other students. You could have been quite responsible, but also, you know what, you could have come across as quite sarcastic as well with other students. Moreover, maybe you were reliable and punctual at school, or you were patient, particularly patient with classmates that you liked. I can even see you being like this when it comes to how you teach others later on in life, being quite a patient, pragmatic teacher and learner too. Lastly, perhaps you were the kid in class who was careful, rational, realistic with your answers. Things had to make sense, practically speaking. And we see this even whenever it comes to how you think later on in life. When we think about your mindset, you're very much a practical thinker. So if things don't make sense, you may be quick to ask questions or to call things out. I also imagine you as someone who you tried your best not to break rules. And even if you did break rules, you would face the consequences of your actions, or maybe you learned from those rule-breaking tendencies pretty early on. Moving on to Capricorn in the fourth house, or Capricorn on the IC. Okay, so growing up, maybe one of your caregivers was quite stern. They were quite strict. They certainly set boundaries and rules. possibly a disciplinarian. So if we were to think about your conditioning, your early upbringing here, and perhaps also you come from this ancestry of, could be politicians, officers, public workers, right? So people that would work within the government, possibly. You might also inherit these kinds of traits, these qualities from your parents, such as you showing up in a very responsible way later on in life, being very disciplined, learning about discipline via your family, via your parents. Maybe also you were raised to be somewhat conventional, right? This is what I'm trying to say, conventional, raised to follow the rules, but also raised to be somewhat reserved and private. And it's also likely that you experience restrictions and difficulties related to property, related to your living situation, your home life, right, your family life. But I think it's also these kinds of difficulties which can be overcome by being strong, persistent, solid, learning, right? Really learning, especially from the consequences of your actions along the way. Perhaps too, you will uphold family traditions, provided they are not depressing. You know, those memories that you have are not super depressing. And also, I think you'll aim to create loving memories. So even if it was, for example, that you were raised in a household that felt quite repressive, or it felt very limiting, or like things were very stern and controlling, there's something here about you going on to create a family life or a living situation, a home life, where you can create better memories for yourself. Okay, so to move on to Capricorn in the 5th house. Well, if we were to think about your dating life specifically here, and these are just quick pieces of information, there's so much more to say about Capricorn through the houses, of course. But you may be attracted to responsible lovers, to sensible, mature lovers. I even imagine this as you committing to particular lovers pretty early on, or it's that there could be some delays, or it's that you choose to be mindful about commitment. You take commitment quite seriously. You're also willing to work on your romantic life if you see the potential. All right, so if we think about you being in a romantic relationship, you dating someone, so if you see that, yes, you want to build a future with that person, you're going to put in the work. You're going to want to work on any issues or concerns that arise. And throughout the process, of course, you're going to make sure that you pay attention to the very actions you take or make. So recognizing that there are consequences to your actions. Further suggesting, you know what, some mistakes, some setbacks, some errors early on. You'll also hold your romantic partners in high regard, right? You can have very high standards for love, for feeling respected in love, a sense of duty, a sense of purpose in love. You will also take your time. This is what I'm trying to say. You'll take your time in love, and you want to be respected, right? Maybe that is one of the most important things for you within romantic relationships. It's being respected. Integrity is also showing up here. Plus, you prefer a love that is timeless. Creating a soulful bond matters, because here's the thing, perhaps you can actually be this romantic deep down, and you want to commit to someone for the long term. I imagine you getting married and you want to stay married. Of course, that's not always going to be the case. That's not always going to happen. I'm just saying that maybe that is what you really yearn for. That's what you want within romantic relationship. Moving on to Capricorn in the 6th house. So if we were to focus on your productivity here, you typically take a step-by-step plan by being practical, consistent, by being realistic, especially regarding certain goals you set, day-to-day tasks you do, things like that. Practicing self-discipline and self-control and being determined certainly can help you complete your daily tasks and your daily responsibilities. You also prefer to develop daily habits and rituals that work for the long term. You're always thinking ahead in this regard. You are willing as well to make cutbacks when you need to so that you can be secure. So for example, if something isn't working, you can readjust, you can pivot. And you may also prefer to just to have this down to earth quality, right? To be grounded in your approach when it comes to your productivity, right? I think you're going to be a bit more cautious, let's just say, when it comes to how much you take on. But I'm also going to say this can suggest some learning, right? This is a process. It's like seeing what works, what doesn't work over a long period of time. I hope you are enjoying this video so far, and if you are, then please be sure to give the video a like and subscribe for more if you haven't already. And if you're interested in learning more about astrology, then you can always pick up a copy of my astrology cheat sheets. The links are down below. Thank you so much. Moving on to Capricorn in the 7th house, or Capricorn on the descendant. Right. If we were to think about exploring the unconscious here, remember that there is more that we could say about the 7th house, of course, but you might discover that through another, you're basically presented with the parts of yourself that are reliable, the parts of yourself that are able to provide. You may actually find that the kinds of partners you get into relationships with, that they can show up as being very pragmatic, very orderly, disciplined. They may even push you to a large extent to show up in those ways too, to take greater responsibility. Partners and close friends, I'm going to say this, in this way, they bring out your responsible and ambitious attitudes. You might actually marry later on in life, or it's that you take your time in relationships. And if you do marry a bit earlier on in your life, what will be very valuable, very important to you is to stay married, right? It's more about that security, that solidity. You want things to last, essentially, right? Now, on the other hand, there is possibly this fear of commitment. There could be fears of certain people getting too close. You do seek security, but you also don't want to get hurt. So maybe this is also where delays and things like that can come in. It's almost like you need to be sure. It could even take for a partner, for someone else to give you an extra push in a way. Plus, you may be unaware of how potentially demanding you can be or unforgiving you can be within relationships. It's almost as if it's through another that you discover what your own boundaries are, what your own limits are. Moving on to Capricorn on the 8th house. So if we were to focus in on intimacy, you may like it when there is control, power, and domination in the bedroom. You're turned on by successful or professional people. Think uniforms or suits. They might turn you on. Darker emotions of coldness, regret, guilt, and sadness must be channeled in healthy ways here. And subconsciously, you may act as a manager or an authority for others with emotional and psychological issues. You may also enjoy sensual and physical intimacy where you feel secure. Intimacy can feel blocked and you might find it hard to relax. But with age, with maturity, with effort, exploring your shadow, right, those hidden facets tied to the 8th house, maybe you will come to learn what it is that is maybe creating that block. And you'll look for a solid bond. Maybe that's really what's important to you. It's that feeling of security and safety and closeness when it comes to intimacy. And it's also about patience, patiently working through anything that you find to be difficult or challenging. And difficulties in this way can occur when it comes to opening up, right? And sharing your deeper feelings. But if or when there is full trust, this is what I'm trying to get at, when there's full trust and there's commitment, you can share your inner fears. Now, if Capricorn is on the 9th house in your chart, if we were to think about beliefs, your worldviews, you are willing to show caution toward other people's beliefs and worldviews. And it can also take you years of building upon your own, right? Maybe it's a process, right? It's about being patient when it comes to your own worldview. You can also show ambition when it comes to the likes of politics, religion, science, metaphysics, philosophy. Perhaps such things are actually tied to your profession. And you're also going to be realistic. You're also going to be somewhat practical in your approach, pragmatic. Your philosophies may actually involve the likes of being responsible, finding your purpose, and showing other people respect, but also commanding respect from others too. If you feel like others are being disrespectful when it comes to their beliefs, their worldview, you may be quick just to go, no, I don't want to talk to you. Plus, you can be disciplined and reliable regarding your morals and your ethics. You just take more of a mature, responsible approach, more of this practical approach. And you also tend to be organized and productive about your beliefs. It's like you need to have a solid base, like a solid foundation to build on, to learn from, to grow from. And you'll think more in terms of their usefulness, right? So the usefulness of your beliefs or the utility of your beliefs. Moving on to Capricorn in the 10th house or Capricorn on the midheaven. Okay, so your greatest accomplishments may include business, planning, construction, architecture, government work. You seek to accomplish something that is long lasting. You possess such a staying power. And also you seek to accomplish something of great quality, right? You have certain standards, you have certain expectations. So this could look like a recognizable role or a responsible position, a high status position, a position where your strong work ethic shows. You also feel accomplished when you are respected, when you're taken seriously for what you do. So when you're not taken seriously, that is when you're going to have a few issues. Of course, we can also look at this as some tension or some blockages, delays, setbacks between you and members of authority. So to think about bosses and managers and so on. Rules really shows up here. You can also become unfeeling towards others who don't put in the work, or they don't put in the time as you make your way towards achieving success. And the public might not know of your accomplishments until they have been successfully completed and there is a practical use for them. You almost let the results show. So basically the results show themselves. The results reflect your hard work. You let the results basically do the talking for you. Plus, you're not likely to gloat or to be boastful. Now, if Capricorn is on the 11th house, in your chart, well, if we were to think about your future hopes, your future may very well involve managing, reconstructing causes, movements, communities. There's a plan in place right here when it comes to organizations, institutions, companies. You aim for success. You're on a mission to achieve a solid position of status and to also pursue your dreams one step at a time. So for example, business, planning, building, becoming a member of authority. You hope to organize society and to lead with commitment, with integrity. You'll put in a lot of effort and you'll also show maturity. You're going to learn quickly from your mistakes, from your setbacks throughout the way. You are a consistent and cautious person when it comes to your future, when it comes to the kind of future you want to build. You come up against obstacles, but you do find ways to overcome them, right? You're all about solving problems, coming up with solutions. And the social utopia you dream of could very well include everyone reaching their own version of what success means to them, and people within society taking responsibility for their actions. And lastly, Capricorn in the 12th house. Okay, whenever we explore your spiritual self, your spiritual practices may very well include business, responsibility, organizing, self-help, giving to charity, or visualization. Reconnecting with the parts of yourself that are ambitious, accomplishing, disciplined, structured. These kinds of qualities can really help create wholeness and spiritual unity. These kinds of qualities could be tied to your karma in this life. Plus, it could also be suggested that in a past life, you were a manager, a politician, you were an executive, and it's those kinds of roles and positions that are tied to your karma in this life too. Plus, your dreams can symbolize your desire for power, for success, for status, as well as the type of reputation you wish to have. So it could be interesting to explore your dreams there a little bit. They can be interpreted in many ways. And lastly, your self-undoing involves being overly skeptical and being overly negative at times. Fears possibly holding you back and not seeing what you have accomplished. And so maybe it is important for you to actually recognize yourself more so and to recognize what you have accomplished. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes today's video all about your Capricorn house in astrology. I hope you have found this video to be helpful. Of course, we did just touch on a few interesting pieces of information. There could be more depth, there could be more details, but I just essentially hope that you find this video to be helpful and that you learned something new overall. If you did find it to be helpful, you can always buy me a coffee. Make sure to subscribe for more if you haven't already. Give the video a like if you liked it today. Stay tuned for more, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!